What's up, guys? It's me, Daniel, with VintageMagic.com. As you can see, I'm stuck in traffic once again, and my son Scott. Scott, say hi.
Hi.
He's in the video because we're doing some errands. But I thought I'd do this video because of the recent revised Underground Sea BUYLIST price increase by Star City Games, and this discussion of buyouts and manipulation, and what is there a potential for this card actually going up in the future, yada yada yada. I figured I would chime in and give you guys some insight from my perspective. All right, so first off, this is not a new thing. Bigger companies are able to put out buy lists, and they are able to put a price out for cards based on a condition range. And in this case, the Underground Sea buy list is $300 at this time, and for near mint to mint, and they're selling for $499.99, so about a $200 profit potential. Now, something to note, guys, is that the average typical investor who tries to do a buyout, like the guy with the mode situation, they're not going to be able to sell anything at a retail level like Star City Games. They don't have the audience, they don't have the website, they don't have the ability to essentially to do a buyout effectively. Otherwise, they're just going to be able to, they're going to have to be stuck with the cards forever, and they're never going to be able to sell the cards and hold the cards. So, effective buyout, in order to do an effective buyout, you actually need to have a venue to sell the cards and have the most reduced cost possibility. And so in the case of Star City, they not only have a website, which obviously has a cost, but there's no eBay or TCG player fees. But what they're also having is, interestingly enough, is the trade bonus or the trade factor. And so what you have to understand is that bigger stores have a trade bonus. If you trade cards to them, they'll give you a bonus for the cards that they have on the line. So interesting thing is, if you trade in like a bunch of cards to Star City, they give you some bonus. You can then get that Underground Sea for $500. It doesn't seem that much, and that's partly why the prices are the way they are, is because of the fact that trade bonuses are in play. Another thing to keep in mind that's very important is condition. Just because a buy list puts out $300 at near mint to mint, you have to remember they can always kick back and reject your card because of the fact that it does not meet their condition standards. So one thing is, for our company, we are actually redoing our buy list. It's going to be updated here soon, but we have a very strict 10-point scale, and we will overpay for many of the cards you see in buy lists out there from other companies, but they have to fit the condition guide that we have. So if you don't understand condition and you have a problem of figuring out what that means, you can go to VintageMagic.com. We have a glossary section on the very bottom of each page, and you can read up on our condition guide. And it uses primarily the Beckett and PSA condition guide, but we also have an ungraded condition guide too. So I bring this topic up because of the fact that you're going to have to account for condition when you ever try to buy list or sell something, period. And you're really not going to get anywhere if you don't care about condition and understand that, because if you see the number as $300 and you don't really read the fine print, you're not going to be able to get $300. Star City will just call you or email you and say, hey, sorry, this is not meet our condition. So what is the deal with these buyouts? I mean, what is the purpose of it? Well, typically people like stores and such have a reason behind it. And a lot of, all of the other investors out there, the public, don't really understand the strategy. They make all these assumptions. They think that they're hoarding them for a big tournament release, that they know some insider trading information from wizards, yada, yada, yada. I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter why they're buying it. I think a lot of people get wrapped up on, well, you know, I want to know why. Well, you're not going to know why, right? So buyouts themselves occur, you know, I'll tell you some general things, like when I make buyouts of, when I make positions, I don't even call it a buyout. I call it more about positioning than buyout. When I make a position into an investment, I do it I do it for several reasons. One is I always look at the long-term philosophy. If I don't feel the card is going to have a long-term play, meaning that if I'm not able to get out of the card a return long-term, then I'm never going to buy the card, generally, unless it's for just a short-term play. I don't have the philosophy of buying them out and then quick selling them, because that automatically reduces the price because the supply will be increased too fast. So my philosophy is generally that case is a long-term thought process. And we'll go into kind of like what makes cards long-term, etc. here in a minute. Another thing I look for also is its current price, and is it something that has the potential to go up to a value of using my money for today. So to give you an example, like Star City, like if I invest $300 into Underground Sea Revised, or let's say a realistic price is probably $350 to $400 for a near mint copy, because I don't think Star City's retail price is the retail. It's not a realistic price of actually buying the card. Let's say you buy into that price. The question you have to ask yourself is that card really going to go up to levels of $1,000 in about 5 to 10 years? Maybe, you know, I would look even 10 years. Because you got to understand what's going on with these cards is that the usage level definitely dictates the value of the card. But at a certain point of the price of the card, the public starts selling the card out because they don't, it's kind of hit a threshold. The million-dollar question is always, what is the threshold of a card? You really don't know, right? So, you know, in the case, for example, of the Tabernacle Pendrell Veil, that card has gone to a very high threshold already, and you've seen that card decline quite a bit. So it's kind of like once you hit like I get the feeling like once a card gets about $1,000, or even like milestones, $500, $750, $1,000, you start wondering, is the card really going to have that longer term value for your money now? I'm not talking about short-term trading, I'm talking about long-term, right? So in the case of higher multiplier items, where you can buy for $5 or $1 or whatever, and you can double up even instantly, you know, those have higher return marks, but you're going to have to buy massive quantities to get the dollar value for the value and time of your money. So people that buy into Underground Sea, you really see that as a solid staple. You know, it's not going to be, you know, there's not much volatility there in the sense that it's not going to tank. People always need the card. And once people buy into the price, they're not going to want to sell it for absolutely nothing, you know, less to what they bought it for. There's a lot of, you know, like stability in people's eyes of buying like a reserve list card like the Underground Sea Revised. And another thing is people look at it as, you know, this card also has, you know, stability, you know, because it is the blue-black color, right? It's probably the most top-tier, tier 1 color scheme for Magic. So you look at these factors, right? You look at these factors, but I'm not sure about Underground Sea. I'm not sure about Revised Underground Seas as a complete, I'm gonna put in, you know, 50 grand or something into the card. I'm not even sure I want to put in even more money into it because I have so many of them, but I wonder, you know, is putting that money in there not the best investment? There's other investments that have higher return values in my eyes. The other factor that I will always notice, and it's kind of interesting, is in this case, is white border cards. White border cards is really important to understand, is that if you don't look at the market for white border cards and you go off and buy them in large amounts, you could get crushed if they go down. Because people sell their white border cards very quickly. Very quickly. Because it's one of those things where it's the first target for people to upgrade is to get rid of their white border cards, as you know. And that's why I think, you know, you forget that there's also like the unlimited cards. Unlimited also has a run, I think it's like 10,000 rares or something like that. And if you start talking about unlimited, there's still a run of those where it's like, those are white border. Yes, the coloring and stuff is better, but you still have white border cards, which people, I mean, I get people wanting to get rid of their unlimited cards all the time to try to get a black border edition, beta, alpha, or even FBB, foreign black border, because white border cards just don't look good. And that's like the #1 upgrade issue, right? Is getting into that. So if you buy into Underground Sea Revise, you have to understand this is going to be the entry level card, but at the same time, there's a lot of, you know, movement because of people wanting to upgrade. So I say this to you because whenever you buy into a card, you have to also look into like, how does that card sell when you're ready to sell? And that's one of the problems with Underground Sea Revise, is that you have a lot of people wanting to trade in for black border. Now let's look about the print run. The print run is about 100,000, right? 100,000 revised rares. I mean, that's a lot. That's a ton. If you do playset count, you know, that's about what? 20,000 or so, 25,000 playsets. I mean, but again, some got destroyed, etc. You have to assume that 5,000 of them or so are destroyed, or there was some type of damage, or, you know, lost in translation. And who knows how many are still in packs, right? There's obviously booster boxes, all that kind of stuff. So the true count is very difficult to determine when it comes to this type of thing. I always wonder if it's worth risking this type of thing with all these factors. See, there's too many factors that potentially could swing a card to a negative growth pattern. I don't think Underground Sea Revise is going to be tanking. I just think that the growth pattern of the card isn't as strong as other growth charts. And that's where I would say is that there's other cards that could grow and grow at a higher, faster speed. So with buyouts and stuff, you gotta be very careful, because, you know, the purpose of this video is to highlight and analyze this particular card, but also give you an idea of, you know, we talked also about why stores even do it and how that procedure goes. You gotta understand that you can't just buy a bunch of these cards and expect to make a lot of money fast. You have to be able to wait longer term. You're gonna have to wait at a time frame that makes sense, where people are, you know, where the growth is there, a substantial cushion of growth, and then you basically can go ahead and resell it at a decent profit. So even if you make 20%, you have to still sell them on eBay or TCG Player or whatever, and 20% mid-level range. You're still gonna have to pay some fees and transaction costs. It's really when you start doubling up, 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, right? And that's why I consider longer term valuations the best. Because there's so many purchases that I've made in the past where the values are so astronomically higher that it doesn't matter if they go down 20% or 30 or 50%, what, even 100% of some of these things, because I've bought them at my cost basis was so low. So you gotta look at cost basis, right? Another thing I would consider, rather than doing single target card buyouts, is to consider larger collection buyouts of larger collections. And you're going to find that in larger collection buyouts, you will spend more money as a downside, and you will have a lot more cards you won't be necessarily targeting a specific card, in this case, Revised Underground Sea. You will, however, get a nice range of cards, which, you know, imagine this as a mutual fund where you have lots of different picks and stocks. And basically what's gone on is you have, some might go up, some might go down. But if you stick within that reserve list, older Magic card range, stuff, collectible stuff I've been talking about for all this time, you're going to be a lot safer than just buying a onesie twosie. And that's kind of the same phenomenon as stock picking, right? Is that when you start picking one stock or one company or a few companies here and there, you're gonna have a really difficult time picking winners. Let's say 5 stocks in a row, 5 winners in a row. It's very difficult, right? Even through all your research, things happen. So I think with collections, you have the ability to get a large range, which I prefer a lot more. We'll talk more about collection buying and stuff like that in the future, but I think it's important to talk about, like, when you do buyouts or large purchases, to consider larger action items, like a range of cards, rather than just buying like one card. I think when you purchase a la carte this way, you always end up never getting the best price. And that's the same way as if you're a buyer. Let's say you are a buyer of Revised Underground Seas and you're looking to buy these cards. Well, you're always going to be paying retail and maybe a little bit of a discount if you buy 4, but you're never really going to get the best price unless you buy, let's say, spend $10,000 on a deck versus just buying 4 Underground Seas, right? That's the way it goes. And also when you buy collections, it's the same process. If you buy from an individual at $10,000, you're not going to get the same discount. So, look, I hope this video is a little bit helpful on how this buyout thing has happened with this Revised Underground Sea announcement with Star City. Thanks again for watching, guys. I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll